So Heartluru, aka the Toys deck, is one of the strongest additions to Standard in the DZ-BT09 meta. It's a fast deck that aims to outpace your opponent, committing as many rears to try and do 3 attacks as possible and rush down your opponent, while also thinning the deck every turn. For a new player, it's a competitive and easy to learn deck, and also relatively cheap besides the Dark Stage generics. If you're a seasoned player, you're probably already aware of its representation in East Asia tournaments as one of the most popular decks, taking up a good amount of the pie chart. So here's the deck overview for Heartluru. You'll see all of the ratings here, and I'll put definitions for each one as I talk about them. So first off, we have tempo/aggro. This deck is extremely aggressive from turn 1, able to add rears to hand, and even when retired, you can add them back to soul, and then call them out from soul through Heartluru's skill. Every turn, you're also adding happy toys to hand and soul, which is the keyword for the rears, so keeping up rear pressure to keep attacking early is really easy. Through deck knitting, your chances of hitting triggers also get higher and higher throughout the game as you're putting non-triggers into soul or adding them to hand. So price is a little bit iffy as the actual core is very cheap. The only reason it's not lower is because the Dark Stage generics covered later are very pricey or a little pricey, such as Avarice Arrester, Tizcar, and Amethyst, as well as Philya if you're playing them in the list. None of them have been reprinted, but you will often not need a playset depending on the list, depends which ones you're basically copying. And honestly, you can play the deck fine without any of the expensive generics, but spending a little will take this deck a very long way. So ease of use I've rated as 5 out of 5 because a lot of people hate how easy it is to play this deck, while it's also very competitive. It doesn't take too much thinking. While the learning curve is very low, so it's easy to learn at first, the optimizations for sequencing exist and guarding optimally is rewarded very well in this deck, as there are 10k and 20k shields, such as Block Horse and the Effect Fronts. Compared to the top meta decks of set 9, such as Bafsagra, Minerva, and Elf Knights, etc., it's definitely the easiest to play, or one of the easier ones. So for competitiveness, this deck gets a 5 out of 5 from me because it's easy to play for long sessions, which is really helpful in an event. It's aggressive early, so decks that want to play for a long late game are at an immediate disadvantage or are forced to guard losing hand early. Having a strong early game just positions you really well in Standard right now. Its long game is also not terrible, as Heartluru will always make a board for Energy Boss 3, you do 5 attacks every turn, grinding hand out of your opponents, and you have 3 drives every turn your opponent is a grade 3, which is obviously great for drive checking cards to guard or offensive triggers in order to end the game. So for utility in terms of matchups, I've actually rated this deck pretty lowly because it doesn't really do anything too special that helps in specific matchups, so therefore it's only at 2 out of 5. It can brute force aggro most matchups or just play long game grind and just hope your persona around your 5 attacks are enough with 3 drives. With Toys tools, the deck actually has no removal, but it does have an easy time rebuilding board through Heartluru's EB3 for retire matchups, and Shark swinging into a rear for the restand can come up in some matchups, such as like Ava or decks that have really big intercepts where you want to get cards out of their hand. The deck also has a back row intercept through Block Horse, so the deck is a little bit more tanky than you would actually think. So the Grade 0 starter is Cute Teddy Bear Titi, with the usual going second draw 1. The starter name does matter, so you can't really swap the starter for the rode upon by the Grade 1 Toy Soldier. So now we have the Grade 1 Nutcracker Soldier with the on place to reveal a Grade 3 Heartluru from your ride deck. You search your deck for the Toys Are Made for Children set order and add it to your hand. This is a really important set order that you aim to play every turn. Its second ability is when placed by a card ability behind Vanguard. If your opponent's grade 3 or greater, you can CB1 bind your TD starter and search your deck for Toys Are Made for Children, essentially securing you a 3rd or 4th Toys Are Made for Children, but you do have to CB1, which is pretty costly in this deck, I would say. Alright, so now for the set order Toys Are Made for Children. It is your best set order that you aim to play every turn in order to maximize Heartluru's potential as soon as possible. On play, you look at the top 5 cards of your deck and reveal up to 2 happy toys from among them. You choose up to one of the reveal cards to put into your hand, and the rest go into soul afterwards, shuffling the deck. It also has the act and order zone to rest 2 cards of the same name and choose up to 1 happy toy from your drop and put it into soul, letting you reoccur a key board piece to call off Heartluru's EB3 skill. Once you have Force head up, you'll be getting 2 soul from drop every turn. Its free filter 2 from your deck, in combination with Happy Bunny, it rapidly thins non-triggers out of your deck, making your chances of flipping triggers with Heartluru's 3 drives extremely high. So next up is the Grade 2 Coastal Shark, which has the same ability as the Grade 1 to search the set order by revealing Heartluru in the ride deck. At the end of the battle that attacked to rearguard, if it was placed from soul this turn, it can stand for Soul Blast 1. Alright, so next up is the Vanguard himself, Heartluru. So he is the continuous that you get plus 5k to your front row units if you have 3 or more of the set order. This of course includes Vanguard. Then he has the act that for 3 energy, you can choose happy toys in your soul, equal to the number of Toys Are Made for Children, and call them to rearguard circle. On attack, you counter boss 1 and perform the following. If you have 2 or more set orders, you restand a happy toy in the front row and give it plus 10k until end of turn. If you have 3 or more, your Vanguard gets plus 5, and if your opponent is on grade 3 or greater, you gain drive plus 1 until the end of the turn. Then, if you have 4 or more, you repeat the restand of front row happy toy again, and plus 10k until end of turn. So in conclusion, Heartluru is a really strong Vanguard. Not only is he refilling your board, giving power to your front row, and restanding your both front rows for plus 10k power doing 5 attacks, especially once you have every set order set up. He's also doing 3 drives on top of that as well, so he's adding a lot of aggression to the deck as well as utility because you'll get to be rebuilding a board, saving you hand every turn. So the main deck toys are all simple and have really strong effects. They each have additional effects according to the rearguard circles that they're on, so your board will often look like this in a CFA preview. I'll show CFA clips later for some attack patterns after going through each happy toy. So the most important one is Sparkly Bunny, which has the on place if you have the set order in your order zone to check top 3 and shove up to 1 card from among them into Soul, thereafter shuffling. This card is rapid deck filter at no cost and can be used to shove in the set order to Soul Blast it out off Giant Fluff, or put Twin Cast into Soul, put into drop for additional shield, and of course to find more happy toys to call off Heartluru's skill. Its secondary effect is in the back row left circle. When the unit in front of it restands, it also stands as well, but at the end of the turn it retires itself. This is barely a drawback though, because the set order's second ability can put it back into Soul to be then called again off Heartluru. So since we teased Giant Fluffy, here he is. On place you can Soul Blast 2 and choose a toys are made for children from your drop or damage and put it into your hand. If you add it from damage zone, you put the top card of your deck into your damage. This means even if you damage your set order, you have a way to grab them back to hand. Just as a reminder, trigger effects don't activate, so if OT goes to damage, then you'll just cry. As mentioned earlier, since you pay cost before resolving the rest of the effect, you can Soul Blast the set order and another card such as Twin Cast, then salvage the drop to hand because you're resolving the rest of the effect, essentially Soul Blasting 2 to +1. Keep in mind, as a cost, you can choose to not play the Soul Blast 2 and then obviously the rest of the skill will not proceed, or you can Soul Blast 2 to whiff the rest of the skill, and really this is only relevant for Soul Blasting out Twin Cast to get that shield in drop. This lets you pitch a set order 0 shield out of your hand early. As long as you see Giant Fluffy, he will salvage it back from drop into your hand. Then in the front row right circle, when it restands, if you have a Heartluru Grade 3 Vanguard, it gains 10k power, and then for the rest of the turn, the red text during the battle it attacks, your opponent must call 2 or more cards at the same time to the Guardian circle. On push turns where your opponent has to divide resources to guard this card's attack and the other front row rear, the deck is extremely annoying to live against. So next up is the other front row attacker, Mr. Blaviloss. His ability is the on place to counterblast draw 1 if you have the set order in your order zone. Then if your opponent's Vanguard is Grade 3 greater, he gains plus 5k power. His secondary ability is on the front left circle. On restand, if you're on a Grade 3 greater Heartluru Vanguard, he gains crit +1 until end of turn. Being able to restand a column as Bunny will also stand behind him while gaining a crit is insane. He's also a great early game card if you take too much damage, as his CB when on place isn't conditional tied to Heartluru, let's say, but you do have to be really careful with how much damage you use because you need at least 1 CB a turn for Heartluru. So the last card is Blockhorse, who has a continuous in the back row right circle to gain intercept and the ability to intercept from the back row. It's a continuous Guardian Circle skill that if you have the toys are made for children in your order zone, he gains plus 5k shield, becoming a 10k shield. So you can essentially think of him as 10k more shield on your board. It's really nice that he doesn't have to intercept by the plus 5k shield, so he's easy guarding for 10k pokes when you don't want to give up a 15k shield. So here's an example of what the board would usually look like. Going second or turn 4, assuming you have 4 set orders, your attack pattern is 5 swings, columns on side, Vanguard attack, CB1, restand both into your 3 drives. Your first Grade 3 turn when you only restand 1 front row happy toy, your formation the other column doesn't really matter, as you should be deciding on the on attack CB1 which column is restanding. Usually it'll be Kaiju Bunny column, as it'll be 33k 2 crit, not counting triggers after Heartluru's buff, and the restand on Giant Fluff on the right side could come up, but no restander will stand with him. Bunny can be in the non-back row left, it just won't restand or do anything. On the back row center behind Vanguard doesn't really matter often unless you want to overcall and shove it back to Soul through the set order, or call Toy Soldier there to bind your starter and add your set order to hand for 1 counterblast. Avarice Arrester is one of the most common cards you'll see, as it plays the set order directly from the deck for the cost of discarding a hand card, and instead of going to the bottom of the deck, it will remain in the order zone. Crucially, this is CB-less and soulless tutoring of the order in case you miss any on turn 3 or 4, so you can essentially think of it as extra copies of the set order. As a grade 1, it's also really easy to slam early to attack with. Since you only start using energy for Heartluru's skill turn 3, the deck has flexibility for energy usage by 3 going first and 6 going second. You'll often see Tizcar or generic that EVs 3 at 2 to 3ish. The Ace unit is a great option, adding even more tech filter, potentially scooping you up a set order if you shove the Soul before calling Giant Fluffy off Heartluru and then adding it back to hand. Ravos is an okay option as it's easy to slam down for the early game while also spawning a Persona Shield ticket if you discard it for riding up. Other builds run either for Philya for the early game, aggro and soul since it'll be active every turn since you're playing a set order. Purple Cat Almathis is usually a 1-up you'll see in a lot of decks because it's an easy on-place countercharge by removing 2 ride deck cards. It's also great in endgame situations or in situations where you might get damage denied. So here's a really quick Heartluru Mulligan guide. So basically you'll want to mulligan for any cards that can get you your set order, as you'll want to play one every turn to get Heartluru's full effects live, since they'll check top 5 and filter for your rears very early. Your next priority will be ride deck discard fodder, which is in the second column, such as Tiscar, your Regulus piece, and then lastly you have your Persona Ride and specific matchups, such as if you need to really rush down people on the right side. The most common lists you'll see are 4 of every Happy Toy, 1 Twin Cast, and then 3 to 4 of Avarice Arrester, with Twist Car filling up the rest of the slots. It's just the most consistent version of the deck, where your toys are made for children are always set up by Avarice Arrester, acting as extra copies, so you never miss out on them turn 3 to 4, and they're basically guaranteed by the Rideline turn 1 and 2. Tiscar is here for extra energy usage. The second one can be awkward going first, but at worst you could CB one for it, which does feel bad, or just not use the skill if you are in that weird of a position. The Obo trigger you'll see in 99% of these lists is Valnute, because you'll always restand Kaiju with a crit +1 from his effect, and giving him the restand 100 mil, basically being 2 crit, without factoring in additional critical triggers is just absolute robbery. Twin Cast is also here because you're playing a set order from hand every turn and shoving it to Soul off Bunny, and getting it to drop is basically free shield. Fire Regulus is also fine in this deck, but you'll often have a full board, so it can be awkward, but at worst it can just whiff and draw you 1. The other options would be Sounds of Wave, Union the Sky, and Evergreen Transfer. 20k shield effect fronts are here at 3, as you have more than enough soul and it makes you a lot more tanky. It also makes quite the difference once your opponent is at 5 damage, as they have to guard every swing, and you could try out draws, but it would take you very close to deck out, so fronts over draws is the consensus I've seen in most lists. The other version of the list plays 4 Philyas to be even more aggressive early, as playing this set order every turn will activate Philyas 13k boost, cost shove to soul draw 1. For example, a grade 2 Blavey loss boosted by Philya will be 23k to your opponent's 8k, asking for 20k shield, which is a 2-hand guard. There are also lists that play Philya and Avarice Arrester together. These lists that use Philya will often usually also play the Ace unit, which uses 3 energy to selectively check top 7, check to soul, and call something out of soul, making setting up 2 rears in the front row to attack early simply off 1 card. Like Bunny, the Ace unit can also tutor the set order into soul, so for example you can EB3, check top 7, shove in the order, call Giant Fluffy, Soul Blast added to hand, and just like that you have 2 attackers in the front row while also just adding the set order into your hand to play for turn. So here's another list with the Ace unit along with 4 Avarice Arresters that seem to be more popular in the latest Vanguard Paradox tops, while also playing 4 effect fronts. Alright, so that wraps up Heartluru for now. It's a pretty straightforward deck in my opinion, and it's quite well positioned in the meta for set 9 and 10. It's also really fun and easy to pick up deck, so I would recommend it. I know a lot of people were happy with the theme, and it's quite a strong deck despite only 1 wave of support. So do let me know if you've got any other tips for the deck. If you're going to be playing it, let me know in the comments. And as usual, thank you so much for watching, and make sure to subscribe and leave a like.